All right, everybody, we are live. So, welcome back to another live stream. And today we have the organizers of Hyperliquid Community Hackathon with us, who are going to talk all the details about the Hyperliquid Community Hackathon and all the things you need to know while you are participating and why you should participate in this hackathon. So, we have Kristen, Ollie, and Toast with us, who are the organizers of the hackathon. And I'll just pass it on to them to give a little bit of introduction about themselves, and then we can just go on and talk about the hackathon. So I'll pass it on to you, Kristen, first.
Sure. And yeah, thanks for having us and giving us a platform to talk about the hackathon. Um, I'm Christian, and I do a lot of things in the crypto space. I'm working on a project called Superform, also building Hyperliquid names in the Hyperliquid ecosystem and doing some other things there. And really passionate about what Hyperliquid is building generally. And it's been a big part of like my recent like crypto experiences and where I'm spending a lot of my time. So had this opportunity to um, put this hackathon out. We'll talk more about like what it is and why it's important. But something that I'm passionate about is like actually helping the Hyperliquid community thrive. So this is like really in line with that. Um, and yeah, we'll dive into that more in a sec. I'll pass it over to Ollie to talk about himself.
Thanks, Christian. Thanks so much for having us, Sahil. My name is Ollie. I'm one of the hackathon organizers, working closely with Christian and Toast and a few other people. I do a couple other things in Web3, one of them being working with Hyperliquid Name Service, the other being working at Zelic. We are an audit shop. We focus on security. We work with a lot of projects in the Hyperliquid ecosystem. The main reason I'm here, though, is because I've been in the Hyperliquid space for a while, and we really wanted to take a lead in encouraging builders to come build on Hyper EVM, explore Hypercore, see all the cool things that can be done in Hyperliquid. And it's a very unique ecosystem for people to work in. It doesn't sort of follow like the standard grand model that a lot of chains do, and it's really organic in that way. And that creates a lot of like unique opportunities for people who want to sort of like take charge and help develop and lead a community. So that's just sort of what we're trying to do here, and make sure we get a lot of builders going.
I can introduce myself. So
Yeah.
I'm Toast. I am a developer mainly. Is my background, and I've been working in Web 2 for a long time. I've been sort of doing the Web 3 degenerate by night sort of thing. So in the last cycle, I was doing some back end engineering for some NFT projects, sort of at night. But my daytime jobs have always been Web 2. I worked at Coinbase, but on the Web 2 side of the shop. In machine learning and data science, so very much a quantitative type. However, I'm a early Hyperliquid user, so the Hyperliquid airdrop sort of changed my financial incentive structure, let's say. So part of that was just leaving my Web 2 job. It didn't really make sense anymore. And this hackathon for me was I was looking for a job that was better aligned with my current financial incentives. Which, I talked to some projects in the Hyperliquid ecosystem, but it is very much a competitive arena. So this hackathon specifically, one of the organizers is a friend of mine, reached out looking for other organizers. And I came on board because this was like a perfect role where it's aligned with just growing the entire pie, if you will, for Hyperliquid. Gave me an opportunity to bring in some of the teams that I already had relationships with. This, we're, like Christian said, we're going to dive into the objectives we have, the kind of stuff we're trying to accomplish with this hackathon. But that's sort of the high level reason why I'm involved.
All right. Thank you so much. And looks like we have a few great people over here and really early adopters of the Hyperliquid as a ecosystem. So I got that part where you folks are really passionate about the Hyperliquid ecosystem itself, and you are organizing this hackathon to grow the ecosystem and bring in new folks, making new folks aware about the ecosystem and get them to use Hypercore and Hyper EVM. But I just wanted to ask you all about a few specific gaps, because I'm pretty sure you all must have seen or observed those few specific gaps which made you think that we should solve this, and we should create a program around this, and we should have this hackathon where people can come in and try to work on those problems all together. So just wanted to get the motivation, like the real core motivation behind this hackathon, like what made you guys pursue this?
Yeah, I can start, and maybe Ollie and Toast can follow on. But like if you know like the philosophy of Hyperliquid, there's like no VC backing. They don't like want to pay for any like integrations to deploy on their chain. They have this really like organic approach to what they're trying to build, and like a community first approach. And like you say, because of that, like there's some things that the chain needs to really thrive, that it made sense to kind of like there's a couple of purposes here. It's like, can we have this incentive structure to build out these like important components to have a thriving ecosystem, but also like increase the mind share of Hyperliquid and give there's a lot of people that are interested in Hyperliquid, like developers specifically, and maybe they don't know exactly where to start. There's some like very interesting mechanics that exist on the chain that you can build like really novel applications with. So giving them like this platform to experiment and to build really helps to create beyond just the things that we think are needed, things that we haven't even thought of yet, that people now incentivize to play around with and build. And so we're just excited to see like what comes out of this based on that. Hopefully that answers your question. Maybe Ollie or Toast, if you wanted to add on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Hyperliquid team is small, and they're slammed. Like, if anyone has been in their Discord, those guys are grinding all the time. And there's a lot of public goods that need to be built out within the Hyperliquid ecosystem. So, for us, there was, we identified a way that we could sort of like help strengthen the ecosystem by leveraging the existing community of builders within Hyperliquid to sort of like provide incentives for those goods, which just benefit everybody who's already in the space, and sort of like makes it easier for new people to come on board and experience what Hyperliquid has to offer, of course. The existing Hyperliquid teams, there's a lot of builders on Hyper EVM, and we want to see more use cases for DeFi. So there's a lot of like specific bounties in terms of like building on existing protocols. And, we're just sort of like excited to see what the types of things that people come up with. And probably lastly would just be the fact that, Hyperliquid unlocks a lot of new DeFi primitives, and that's still yet to be explored. And, there's probably a wide number of ways that can be incentivized. And, a hackathon is just, it's a fun, it's an exciting way to do that. It can help sort of like bring completely new people into the space. And I think that's something that, everybody who is in Web3 can really relate to, is sort of like coming into a space, not knowing that much, and then, realizing there's all these sort of like well-established channels that are set up that you can go and explore, get deeply entrenched, and go from like 0 to 100 in, a few months sort of thing. So yeah, it's just exciting.
Yeah, I want to just add like to the gaps part of your question, Sahil, is that Hyperliquid and specifically lacks foundational support from Hyperliquid Labs. Like if you look at other L1 projects, they typically will allocate substantial resources towards foundational efforts. Like especially I think Starknet is notable for like allocating a ton of money to hackathons specifically. They've done a great job of funding hackathons, but HL Labs has a sort of like philosophical reason not to provide this foundational support. They don't want to be seen as picking favorites or anything, but this hackathon actually provides sort of a vessel for interested parties. That includes our growth partners who want to come in and invest in the space. They get a hard no from Hyperliquid Labs if they want to come in and just straight up invest. So this hackathon gives those parties sort of an opportunity and a marketplace really to find projects that are building cool things on Hyperliquid and to get invested, get involved. So it's like, there is an actual gap in Hyperliquid that I think that this hackathon specifically is addressing. it's kind of a blessing and a curse. We don't have all of these things that other L1s have, but
Yeah.
we've come out and shown that the community can provide a lot of that. So
Exactly, and it just speaks so much more about the community, right? And it just speaks so much that the community itself is so much motivated and enthusiastic about growing this ecosystem so much that whenever they are seeing that there is this thing missing, for example, this hackathon, you just said that there was a lack of like monetary support from the team behind this behind the protocol itself. So you guys, being the community members, saw this and started started to take things in your hand and just launch this hackathon. So I think it just speaks that the community is very strong.
Damn strong.
All right, Kristen. So I will just hand it over to you folks, and we can just dive into hackathon and all the details about the hackathon.
Sure. All right. Yeah, there's my screen. So I was thinking of making a pitch deck, but thought it made sense just to like dive into the actual platform that participants are going to be using. Just to like highlight like a couple things. This like is already like vastly exceeded our expectations. We have I think 50 or so teams that have decided to sponsor this, which is like a huge number. And we raised $250,000 so far for the various tracks that we'll talk about, which from like just like a grassroots community effort, like we were very surprised, and it kind of had like this snowball effect. Like we got a few people interested, and then it kind of created this like FOMO, which is kind of what Hyperliquid has done very well, I think, generally, is that like, oh, everyone else is getting involved, like I need to be part of this now, even if like the typical incentive structures that they're familiar with don't exist. So it was just really amazing to see that like snowball effect and all these people who were like reaching out to us to get involved. And yeah, $250,000. So this is Taikai. This is the hackathon platform that we're using for running this hackathon. Everybody who wants to participate will come here, like create an account and register their project. It's a 4-week hackathon. It's ongoing right now. I'll walk through like the various aspects just of this platform, and it's a good way to get familiar with like what's going on here, and then we can like dive deeper into specific things. So we have there's a bunch of tracks and bounties. So there's 3 primary tracks, and again we'll dive deeper into these after. I'll just go at like a high level. We have like public goods, pretty self-explanatory. We have Hyperliquid Frontier, which is growing the ecosystem with like unique innovations that aren't necessarily just technical, but also social, cultural, so applications, integrations, community initiatives, things like that. And then specifically precompiles and core writer. If you're familiar with how like the Hyperliquid architecture works, we have a Hyper EVM, which is this EVM compatible environment, but also Hypercore, which is like the perps, DEX, and spot exchange and all these other like staking and stuff that you're familiar with. And then the interesting use cases in my mind, like the most exciting things about Hyperliquid is like, what can you build when you're connecting those 2 pieces of Hyperliquid together? And I think that's where a lot of the novel applications will develop. So we're incentivizing people to explore that. For each of these tracks, we have a $30,000 first place prize, $15,000 second place, and $5,000 third place. And additionally, we have specific bounties. And again, we'll highlight some of these as well, but there's a bunch of bounties, some of which are just core to the hackathon, some of which have been offered by specific teams and specific sponsors for building something specifically on top of their protocol or application. And we have a bunch of them here that we can talk about with various amounts. And then here's the timeline. So the hackathon is ongoing, and it kicked off July 28th. So we're in the like 2nd week now. Some upcoming dates to be aware of. We have a demo day coming up on August 20th, so in 2 weeks, and then a closing ceremony on August 22nd. August 24th is the final submission deadline. So you have just under 3 weeks to submit your projects. which honestly should be plenty of time for someone to like hack something together. So it's not too late to get started if this is your first time seeing it. And after this 4-week hackathon period, we'll have a 2-week judging period, and then the winners will be announced on September 5th. We can talk about there's a bunch of judges. I think we have like 30 judges from various like teams in the Hyperliquid ecosystem who have volunteered, and we even have we have Julian from the Hyperliquid team who's going to be joining as a judge. We have some other judges from like high profile teams, so like a quality cast of people who will be assessing these projects. We have growth partners, so you can see this list of people that you might be familiar with, like A16Z, for example, a bunch of VC firms and different like DeFi projects or other teams that have agreed to assist the hackathon winners like once the hackathon ends. So a lot of times you build a project in hackathon, you get your money, and then like maybe nothing really comes of that. So we want to offer like ongoing support to these teams to continue building out and maintaining these projects. So a bunch of these like growth partners, we're calling them, have volunteered to work with the teams afterwards to continue like refining the product, building mentorship, advice, all that kind of stuff. And then we just have some like rules about you can just review this yourself. It's pretty standard stuff.
So, Christian, I had one question related to the rules. So
Sure.
imagine there is this team who already has this project ongoing but on some other ecosystem or some other chain. So will that be okay for them to completely move that project, whatever they are working on right now, onto Hyperliquid and start building on Hyperliquid? Or it should be a completely novel project?
My teammates here can correct me if I'm wrong or add to this, but it's okay if you're already currently building something, but you should be creating something new and novel for the hackathon specifically. It shouldn't just be, I have this project that I've already built and I'm going to like submit it to the hackathon. It should be like, for the spirit of the hackathon, you're creating something new, Hyperliquid aligned, and submitting it specifically for these like tracks or bounties. But it can be, if you've already like got something in motion, that you can use like pieces of that to participate. It doesn't have to be like completely from scratch necessarily.
Yeah, I think just to add, Christian's absolutely right. I do think that there's just some nuance, but in general, the rule is that yes, you can bring even an existing project that was already within Hyperliquid, can compete. But there is an aspect of yes, if this is something that you were already building before the hackathon started, you need to be providing some new feature or something, some net new product that you're rolling out during the hackathon building period. And then also another piece of this is that we have an EVM layer within Hyperliquid. So you might see another like an Ethereum or another EVM chain project just fork and deploy on Hyper EVM, which is a really low lift thing to do. So that is also totally valid. And in fact, that might be a good strategy for checking off some of the bounty requirement boxes without doing too much work. But especially for the main tracks, which we'll talk more about later, that really needs to be using some of the protocol layer features to build something new and innovative. So it's just probably not going to be very competitive against teams that are actually using some of the more foundational features on the chain, if that makes sense. So in general, yes, it's okay to bring pre-existing projects, but there's some caveats and nuance.
Yeah, just take a look at like the bounties for anybody who's interested, and you can see like the way the bounties are structured. Like they don't really align or incentivize like just like a copy pasta from like an existing protocol to bring it over. Like we want exploration of Hyper EVM core, like taking a bit of like a weird example here because they would never do it, but like Kinetic is like they're sort of like leading in terms of like interactions with Hyper Core and LSTs, but like if they were to like resubmit for the hackathon, you'd be like, well, I mean, this isn't pushing the frontier, you guys already exist, you're already doing it. So it's like it has to be some sort of like novel innovation in that sense. And then the other things like on the the main sort of like public bounty tracks, which we're going to get into more here, and like the kind of bounties that are tied to them, like the Hyper EVM transaction simulation, like the improvements to Hyper EVM RPC, like if you have like existing infrastructure that you can bring over to help meet those requirements, I mean, that's like totally doable. And it's sort of like a little different than like, taking a piece of infrastructure that works in one place and bringing it over is a little different than taking a piece of DeFi that exists somewhere else and just copy paste it and bring it over.
Yeah, that 100% makes sense. So, Kristen, now do you want to talk about like exact timelines or some?
Yeah, let's just go through some other things here. I mean, I talked about the timeline a little bit, but this kind of we kind of broke them down into different weeks, but it's not like rigid and it's pretty general. But so it's not too late to join, but we kind of had like this like team formation kickoff week. Now we're in this second week of like building and learning. I'll show like we have like ongoing workshops every week where some of the sponsors are like demonstrating how to use their product or their application if you wanted to like be building on that for the bounty or one of the tracks. And then next week's more building, and the final week is the submission and closing ceremony, with then 2 weeks of this post-event judging, which we're having different categories. Basically, like there's an initial screening to filter out low quality submissions, and then we'll have like these two final like rounds of like preliminary and then final judging. So your project will have like multiple sets of eyes on it in order to ensure the fairest judging process and like prize distribution process.
Got it.
And then
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask one question around the timeline. You mentioned that if you scroll up a little bit, you mentioned that the week of 18th, which is week 4th, will be the submissions week. And so let's say that they have to submit on 18th. Will that be possible? Let's say that if someone wants to register on 16th and they can build something pretty quickly within 2 days, will that be possible for them? Because a lot of people tend to join hackathons during the end of the hackathon, and you have done hackathons in the past, so you must already know this. And a lot of people will join towards the end and they expect you to accept them. So TLDR, are the applications open and people can still apply throughout the period, or the applications will be closing at some point?
As you can see, August 24th is the final project submission deadline. You can join 1 minute before that if you want. In fact, we know that there's a bunch of teams building in stealth that will likely join and submit at the last minute. So yeah, totally. Definitely know that like a month-long hackathon, we expect like most of the work to be done near the end anyways. So no worries. You can start the day before, and if you can build something cool, feel free to submit it. The only singular deadline is this August 24th submission deadline. You can sign up 1 day before, doesn't matter.
Perfect.
We have this workshops tab as well. So we've already run a few of these. And basically you can see that these are run by different teams like Alchemy, Gold Sky, and Lava have run these workshops so far. These are live streamed and also recorded afterwards. So anybody who's building on these tools or participating in those bounties or using them for any other track in the hackathon can use these as resources. We have some more coming up, as you can see here. So we have a presentation on Gold Rush by Covalent, and then also a design-focused workshop coming up. There might be some others as well, so you can just reference this page for that. We won't go too much into this, but you can see all of the projects that have already submitted. So if you're looking for like inspiration or you're just curious, the projects tab will have all of the projects that have already signed up. They're talking about like what they're going to build. They have the bounties that they're trying to go for and win. You can see here that like something we recommend as well is you should try to hit like multiple bounties with one project if you can. You can see this team is trying to hit like 3 different bounties. You can even do more. These guys are going to try to achieve like 5 different bounties or tracks with one submission. So we recommend that too and encourage it.
Goes hard.
Yeah. exactly.
Water down goes hard.
So yeah,
The one in the row at the top, the C, what was it? C prep?
yeah.
That's cool. Cody prep. Looks like there's some good projects here.
Yeah. So if you're curious, dive into all of these just to see about what cool stuff is going on. We have like over 100 projects have already been listed here, and again, I think
but don't get scared if you see somebody already doing something that sounds like what you want to do. Like it's like there's a judging process, and we want people to we want the best person pursuing any given track or idea to be the one that wins here, because that's what's going to be the best for Hyperliquid Eco. So don't be scared, you can win.
Yeah, just like take what they're doing and just do it better.
Yeah, crush it. Sorry, C-Prep.
That's
while we're on this, sorry Kristen to interrupt, while we're on this tab, and we already covered workshops, so there might be few folks who are completely new to the ecosystem or completely new to crypto as well. So are there any resources, like in general, educational resources listed somewhere where they can learn about the Hyperliquid ecosystem, they can learn about Hyper EVM, Hypercore?
That's a great question. Docs for Hyperliquid are pretty good, I would say. But I think actually one of the streams we have in here is specifically for sort of general Hyperliquid documentation. If I'm not mistaken, Christian?
We have a
bounty for it.
It's a bounty. This is it's a so there's a language translation bounty. Also, I believe that here in the public goods track, you could also submit documentation as well. So yes, the Hyperliquid website has documentation for maybe how to get started, in the specific nuances of Hyperliquid itself. We do have resources on here somewhere. Toast, do you remember which page has all the resources from the different teams?
Yes. I think actually this information will come from the workshops. So
okay, that makes sense.
I think that there may be documentation, but I don't see it here on our website. So we may have decided just to let each of our sponsors who are providing tooling to do demos in these workshops. So if you go into the videos here, you'll see they do live demos of how to use those tools.
Yeah.
But let me check to see if we have documentation.
Yeah, I can see that in the categories, each category has their own documentation. So
we put it in here. Right?
Yeah, that may also have. Yeah.
So if you look at Privy, you will find documentations for Privy.
All right, glad you took a look here. Yeah. Yes, that's where it is. So that's the next spot we'll touch on anyway. So good segue.
Good segue.
But yes, yeah. So there's the general Hyperliquid documentation available on the Hyperliquid website. There's the builders chat in Discord, which we're kind of using as our general discussion hub for the hackathon. So you can go in there and ask specific questions or try to find a teammate or whatever it might be. So that's the Hyperliquid Discord. And then for specific documentation for a bounty, you can go in, and again, I just pulled up Privy as an example, and they have resources, Hyperliquid guides, all this stuff. So you can use that if you're tackling a specific bounty.
Perfect. And Kristen, I can see the top 3 bounties have a lot of amount which are up for grabs for participants. So do you want to cover some of those, what people can be doing and basically what they can be building on for those?
Yeah. So starting with public goods, this is number 1, because again, this is kind of what really inspired the hackathon in the first place. Is okay, there's some critical tooling that we need for a successful blockchain ecosystem, and we think we can get the community to build out these public goods for the sake of, this is something valuable and useful for everybody. In fact, we require the public good submissions to be open source. So you can see here that you can just read the description, but this can be open and reusable tools. This can be infrastructure, any resources that benefit the Hyperliquid ecosystem. as I mentioned, if this can be like technical SDKs, indexers, but it can also be educational, it can be documentation, anything that, as you say, empowers others to build better. The resources tab will become available. Okay, and Toast just informed me that on the previous topic that we were talking about, there is a resources tab that I'm not logged in right now, so I can't see that, but there is a resources tab that will appear up here once you're signed up, and that has all of the documentation that we were talking about before. Toast, Ollie, anything you want to add on public goods?
I don't think so, although I think that call out for documentation is a really interesting and unique way that people can contribute. If you know a lot and want to write a guide or a set of guides, that may actually be a very nice submission without creating new code or anything.
Yeah, the Hyperliquid docs are good, but they're kind of like reading like first principles. It's like reading like a math book or something. Like you really got to sort of like be in the know and work through it and think about how things might connect with each other. But like having something that's maybe intuitive, like some diagrams and things like that. And, not fluffy stuff, but stuff that actually helps convey the idea more easily. That's going to go a long way. And I think like what Sock said. Or rather, Toast said, sorry. Sorry, I confused you with another object that wasn't edible. While you're working through your project and learning about like Hyperliquid Eco or like learning how to build on it, like you're going to have to go through those existing docs. That's like a great opportunity to identify shortcomings. You're probably going to be needing to make your own notes in order to understand how it works. If from that you can spin out some good docs to contribute, that's amazing.
Yeah, just to like bang on that a little more, you don't even have to be a coder or a developer to participate and win prizes in this hackathon. There's lots of other ways that you can contribute to the ecosystem and win prizes for doing so. Let's jump into the frontier track. So this is just generally growing the Hyperliquid ecosystem, technically, socially, culturally. These, and you can build apps, create integrations, but even like community initiatives, creating memes, creative content, cultural movements. This is, again, like I just said, you don't have to be a developer to participate. You can see the judging will be based on quality and ecosystem impact. So it doesn't have to be a application. It can be any sort of community initiative, something social, cultural that has a large impact on the ecosystem. So you can get creative and think, what does the ecosystem really need that might be missing, or how can you like otherwise provide value and ultimate impact. So that's what this track is all about.
Yeah, it's interesting because from a technical side, the third track, precompiles and core writer, are like the frontier of Hyperliquid, but this second track is a much broader area, and I've seen some really interesting projects coming around with like social projects around Hyperliquid. This is really probably the most general area, especially for a closed source project with monetization. That wouldn't go well in the first track, but if you're not using precompiles and core writer, maybe this track is the right track to compete in.
Next, let's talk about the precompiles and core writer exploration track. So as I alluded to earlier, and like personally, this is the thing that excites me the most about like Hyperliquid on a technical level, is they created this. They started out with this, on the surface, just this really cool perps exchange, but what they were actually building was like so much more than that, and it has obviously like done very well just on like the trading level, and now you have this EVM, so you can do all of these doing things with the Ethereum virtual machine and all the amazing things that enables, and now you can combine that with this hypercore, all of the perps and spot trading features that they created there, and the unique interplay between those two is something that there's a lot of room to innovate on. So how can you push the boundaries of what's possible with the interplay between hypercore and hyper EVM? And you can see there's like docs here specifically on that.
Yeah.
I do think that. Sorry, I was just going to say that I do think that this combination of hypercore, where you have all the financial stuff like order books and everything on chain, which makes it just so secure. Plus, with the addition of hyper EVM, it just makes it so much accessible for anyone to build on the powerful hypercore which was already present.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind here is for builders, it's like think of ways to help other people make money on chain.
Yeah, and like to just expand on Ollie's point there, one of the bounties actually that one of our sponsors brought us is just to build an arbitrage system that can use AMMs on the EVM side and the order book marketplace on the hypercore side, and actually using Core Writer and read precompiles to automate this arbitrage using a smart contract on the EVM. This would be like a very innovative and experimental project. From my perspective, this would probably be better done off chain, but there's a lot to be said for providing permissionless tools for maybe individual depositors to come deposit into a smart contract to participate in this arbitrage system. So yeah, to Ollie's point, if you have an arbitrage bot that is democratized and people can come in and make money with, that could be a huge win, a huge unlock, and a big exciting project that gets born out of this.
It's true. The most successful apps in crypto generally are ones that are good at making their users a lot of money. So those are the three main tracks, and generally like your project that you submit should fit into one of these three tracks. In addition, now there are other bounties that you can target with your submission. So you'll be in one of these tracks generally, but then also you can try to hit one or multiple of these bounties as well. There's some that we really want to highlight as important tooling that we believe is needed in Hyperliquid. So let's start with, we'll do the Hyper EVM transaction simulator.
Christian, is it okay if I take the lead on this one?
Yeah, please. I would love for you to do that.
So the Hyper EVM transaction simulator is something that has been requested by a lot of whales and a lot of big traders and big power users within the space. So delivering on this front is going to make a lot of people happy. It's probably going to help a lot of people achieve their aims, which was sort of like, financial success, if you will. Keeping big players like that, keeping big users within the Hyperliquid ecosystem is, of course, something that's like near and dear to everybody in the space. So this is a serious contribution. Now that we sort of like laid out sort of like the context here, it's probably important to sort of like get into like what is actually being looked for this bounty. So on the requirement side, transaction simulation needs to be very fast. It needs to be real time. It needs to be accurate. It needs to be able to do historical simulations. And you need to be able to set custom parameters. Toast, Christian, does that make sense to you guys? Like just on the requirement side?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then there's not just the basic requirements. There's also sort of like the advanced features. And this would be basically being able to, you're thinking about, simulating something on chain. The state is currently A historically, or it is right now. You want to be able to modify the state, run a simulation under a varied state. And that's just going to sort of like help you, give further control over, future predictions. Simulation requires, especially when you're looking at like sequences of DeFi interactions, how different, agents on chain might behave, requires account impersonation. So that's another huge feature. I think that's sort of like, standard to any sort of like, advanced simulation framework that are out there. Analysis and insights is very important. So you need to have comprehensive data coverage, and we're also sort of looking for, a good way to interact with the simulation on the dashboard side. So clean dashboard, something that's responsive, something that's comprehensive and gives good visibility on all the data and all the things you're simulating. And then probably lastly on my side, I'm probably missing a bunch of stuff here, Toast and Christian, would be, integration requirements. It needs to have RPC API. It needs to have a REST API, and also ideally SDK libraries to make it easier for people to build on top of this simulation engine.
Good. And I think this could be very beneficial for the person who ends up creating this as well, right? Because you mentioned that a lot of whales and a lot of high frequency traders have been requesting this a lot. So they can, if they end up creating this, they can sell this as a API, or they can just sell this as a full blown API, and they can make a lot of money out of it in long term.
Potentially, yeah. Alternatively, they could submit it as a public good. So you can see that the transaction simulator, we have a $30,000 bounty for the best team to create this. You could also submit that as a public good, and if that you win first place there's potentially $60,000 up for grabs if you create this transaction simulator and release it as a public good.
That's a fat payout, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fat payout, especially for teams that have experience doing these sorts of things.
Yeah, and if they can create a custom RPC, RPC method or endpoint for this, they can also apply for the RPC improvement track, and they can basically win 3 tracks.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know about the details of winning in multiple tracks. That may be possible.
Okay.
But
Sahil figuring out the alpha here, man.
Yeah, seriously, trying to pull it up for that $90,000 prize payout.
90,000 winner, that would be insane. Well, let's try and make that happen.
That would be it. I was gonna say, I think you could play it. So a lot of open source projects also offer paid services. So like you could probably check off the boxes and qualify for the public goods track, open source your project, but then also provide a paid node and hosted service running that software. There are open source monetization models as well.
Yeah, you get the best of both worlds with that route. So
yeah.
Do you want to move on to the next one, Christian?
Yeah. I think unless Sahil, if you wanted to touch on the transaction simulator at all, but I think we covered it pretty well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So improvements to the Hyper EVM RPC. This one is also very important for other reasons. Toast, if you want to dive into this one.
Yeah, I mean, these are a lot of really low level bounties. And so you can see that the price pool is actually set up into these tiny chunks, and the total price pool right now is $20,000, but it may grow as we are still actually getting interest from potential more sponsors, even though the hackathon's already well underway. But this $20,000 prize pool is going to be divided into a set of smaller payouts and prizes that are awarded for fixing and fixing issues that are up on the RPC GitHub site, as well as merging new features. So you can see that there's a range of $200 to $500 based on just merging fix into the code base. So what this looks like is just opening a pull request on GitHub that actually fixes an issue that's been written. And then the core contributors, from I'm presuming from HL Labs, but anyone, I think it's an open source project. Any of the core contributors, will review it, make sure that it actually fixes the issue and merge it in. Upon that successful merging and fixing of the issue, the hackers will be eligible for this prize payout. And then the net new features are bigger pieces of work. These are, I believe, are also documented in the GitHub issues page. But these are going to be full features that are net new adds. So things like a new API method on the RPC endpoint, or improvement to performance or something like that. These new features will be eligible for this new feature prize pool, which is a bigger payout. And again, this is an ongoing development project, so it's not going to be done by the end of this hackathon. This is just getting builders involved in contributing to the main open source RPC code base. So if we look at just some of these are some of the new features that are actually documented here. So you can see we have this RPC resiliency and monitoring. There's also so that's tooling for dashboards and insights. There is resiliency around failsafe RPC. So this might help detect problems with RPC performance and help support more resilient architectures that involve redundant nodes and that sort of thing.
So it helps, like, is the idea here that basically it's like, as there's more and more power users on Hyperliquid and they're sort of like interacting with Hyperliquid through the RPC, they just want something that's like really robust.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is just one of the gaps that
Yeah.
Hyperliquid, the entire ecosystem, like getting back to that original question, is addressing with this hackathon. The core team hasn't had time to fix some foundational issues with the core RPC code. And also there's some resiliency problems. So yeah, exactly. This is just for power users, for people interacting with Hyperliquid protocol, through their own front end or whatever system that they have. They're a bot trading system or some kind of headless interactions with the core protocol. Those types of users will benefit from these, and those types of users often have frustrations using Hyperliquid programmatically, just because of like resiliency problems, and there are things like bad responses. You can see in the second resiliency issue that the response times can vary. You can get bad responses and nodes that go down. So just these basic foundational problems with RPC that's provided currently.
And a few other things down here, going back to documentation. So looking for clear guides for running nodes and step-by-step tutorials. And then we actually have this other bounty here, archive node requirement. Are you able to jam on that a little bit?
Yeah, totally. I mean, with this, actually, this one's a little in the weeds even for me. I think this is going to be for somebody who, an archive node. So for somebody who's indexing the data, is running an archive node, this is going to help. So this is essentially replacing the archive node software that currently exists for something that is a little better for indexers. So this is basically just anyone who can help solve some of the basic issues with pulling historical data from a traditional archive RPC node. Just needs to come in here and solve these foundational problems. That's my best swing at this one.
Perfect. And then again, if you're tackling some of these like high tech, more involved bounties, again, I'm sure there's some people in the builders chat who can maybe like help you out with some questions that you might have, or the Hyperliquid team maybe might be able to address specific questions if you have them.
And I think I would like to add a little bit on the archival nodes requirements is that specifically on EVM based chains or EVM based nodes, a lot of methods like get logs or get block for the archival data can get pretty heavy, and usually a lot of times if you are getting a huge range of blocks using get logs, the node starts to misbehave and a lot of time it even breaks. So solving those kind of issues where some heavy RPC methods can work very smoothly even for a higher range of blocks, if someone can solve that or provide alternatives to that would be huge.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that context. That's great. There's a bunch more bounties as well. Like, so just to like, these are the two that like these are the biggest bounties because we believe they provide the most value to the ecosystem, and that's why like there's the largest monetary incentive for creating them. But a bunch of our generous sponsors have allocated a portion of their sponsorship to specific bounties that are building some specific tooling or product or something. So won't spend too much time, but just to run through, we have like the best use of the Glue X Router API, best use of Liquid Labs, and there's a bunch of teams you're familiar with. You've heard on like the Privy, Li-Fi have contributed, or specific things like a shielded TWAP order executor, a token vesting system. This is one that we wanted to draw attention to as well, is the Hyperliquid SDK in other languages. Toast, you wanted to highlight this one quickly?
Yeah, I mean, so this one is, again, we already have a few teams. There is a SDK that was published, I believe, by Hyperliquid Labs in Python, which really was the right language for the early Hyperliquid users who were just building trading bots. But we now have a community of builders who use other languages, in particular JavaScript and TypeScript. And these builders are interested in building apps on Hyperliquid. So there's actually already a unofficial community built TypeScript SDK that was already out there. But there are other builders who are interested in using even other languages like Rust to build apps. So the idea with this bounty is that anybody can bring their SDK built in their language of choice to this to apply for this bounty pool. And there is also a chance that we can award, I mean, currently we don't have more than one, but just with our expanding number of sponsors, more than one prize for this pool. If there are several different SDKs in different languages, those are not redundant pieces of work. So that they're all going to bring value. So definitely, if you are a coder in a specific language, like Rust in particular, which I find really hard, look at this bounty. If you are interested in tackling building a Hyperliquid SDK in Rust or in what's another weird language? I don't know, C++. Golang. Yeah. If you are really passionate about a specific programming language that you would like to have an SDK in, then .NET. Fortran. Let's go. Whatever that is. Do they even have SDKs for Fortran? I guess. Maybe they're called something.
No. That's
a library. Maybe they call it a library, but
they have nothing for Fortran. It's
but if you especially think if there is a community that uses a specific language that would want to get involved with Hyperliquid and building on Hyperliquid, take a look at this. You can even ping me directly so I can coordinate. We have, like I said, a few teams already working on TypeScript specifically, and I'm trying to get a team working on Rust because this is important stuff, and it's going to enable builders across all different languages. So that's the idea with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Just quickly run through the others here, just to give a bit of visibility. We have this notification system using Node Info API. This is what we talked about earlier, the core EVM arbitrage bot using the core writer precompiles, a Hyper EVM stablecoin tracking dashboard, best showcase of identity.
Identity with Hyperliquid names. Let's go.
We have the best use of Gold Rush by Covalent, best use of Gold Sky, best use of Hyperdrive, Hypercore Liquidator bot, best use of Alchemy, where they're offering a cash prize plus credits. And I guess I'll mention as well that a bunch of these like infra providers have also offered for their tooling to be free for hackathon participants for the duration of the hackathon. A bunch of these teams mentioned above. So I believe that's all in like the resources tab as well. Once you sign up for the hackathon, if you're building a particular bounty, you get free use of their tooling to complete the bounty, which is sweet.
I like the Alchemy bounty that is giving Alchemy credits. I think some people are might be inclined to just go for the money, but if you're actually building something that's gonna be a lasting project, then these sorts of bounties that can offset your future costs that you're bound to have are actually really, really good, and they send a really strong signal that you're committed to the eco. So finding a way to incorporate that and nail that into your submission, I think that's some juicy alpha. I don't know, could be wrong.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said at the intro, the real idea with this hackathon is just to connect teams that are building with other teams that are building or investing. So don't even worry about winning first place in your track because the opportunities abound.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, so that's the overview of all the bounties available, the different tracks.
Bro, this is advanced adaptive execution layer.
This is D2 Finance's bounty. You can take a look at it if you want to. Trend, volatility, adaptive execution, market making concepts, interfaces, institutional needs, bunch of resources. Well, this seems like some real smart stuff.
Yeah, this looks like
anytime
like
you see
kind
Kalman filter, I'm like, all right.
like if you're this is like a power user quant type who like really knows their stuff. It's gonna come in and build. This is crazy, but
this feels like the kind of thing like if you build it, like you're already printing and you're just like, yeah, I'll take that 1K bounty, but
yeah,
yeah, right.
Someone named Valentina on Twitter said that they have built an SDK in every language. Send rewards.
Send Valentina. Send, bro. So bring it over.
Submit it. Let's go.
But I know that dude. That's great.
Yeah, perfect.
He looks like one of your gang members there, Toast. He's got the PFP to match.
He's in the Hypeo gang for sure. But I actually know him from a long time. He was in that NFT project from last cycle. OG.
All right. So yeah, it's an overview of basically everything. If you had any like final questions, comments, happy to address those.
Yeah, so I just have one question, but in the meantime, to everyone who's watching, if you have any questions around the hackathon or just general questions for Christian, Ollie, or Toast, shoot them in the comment section, and I think they'll be happy to answer them. But I just have one question. It's not even a question, but I think ask for a suggestion from you folks. So what do you think works best for demos? Because it might help a few of the participants to prepare their demo in a better way, so that they can make it a little bit polished and make it a little bit lucrative. So just some best tips and tricks you want to share for making those demos polished and attractive.
I think video demos are super important way to convey what it is you're doing. Start off with a clear explanation of the problem you set out to solve, a brief description of how you solved it, and then walk us through how it works and really convey, what your vision is, and focus, of course, like on your vision so much. One of the things that I think people can get trapped in with hackathons is thinking implementations need to be 100% complete. Like we're looking for like a good understanding of how things should be structured, what the architecture should look like. Of course, some implementation there, but a huge part of crypto that is a consistent challenge for people is having working products that are easy for people to use. So make sure to bang that out.
Yeah. Just to like show a product that we use at Superform for a demo recently. It's called Screen Studio. And it's just like makes really nice, clean like demo videos with like automated zooms and things like that, and it's like really slick. So if you're just trying to add like some production value rather than just like a general like screen share of your what you're building, so Screen Studio is what it's called. There's tons of other tools out there.
Is it Screen Studio / Crouton? Like what's the referral?
I was trying to provide value for free, sir.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, yeah, that's just a random product placement. I have no affiliation with, but we used them for a demo recently, and the demo looks pretty cool. But yeah, besides that, Ollie, I think nailed all the points for what makes something good.
Yes, dude. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely +1 on Screen Studio. It's a really good tool, very easy to use. You just record your screen, and most of the time it just does stuff for you. Yeah, and that's a really good point, by the way. Just having a good demo, but having a good presentation also matters a lot in hackathons, because you might have a really good product or you might have a really good project, but if you're not explaining it correctly or not highlighting the value of that project correctly or the value that it delivers correctly, it might just go missed, or people might just miss it.
Yeah, make it easy for the judges to select you. Give them everything they need to make a decision.
Exactly.
Totally. We're almost out of time, and I want to be respectful. I guess I was going to say, just to add on, if you are building a product that's supposed to make your user money, like really make that clear. Like, this is your crazy APY, or this is how you're going to deposit money and make money. Like, make that really obvious as the user experience. But if you're doing a public track, forget all about making money and make it all about serving the builders, right? Like, really make it clear what you're going for. Don't try to skate the line between making the users money and doing a public good. Like, to me, those should be kind of separate, and you should really know what sort of end user experience you're focusing on there. I think it's just my last thought.
Bro, what's that saying? Like, chase two cats, end up with none, or something? Like
something like that. Yeah, I know the saying. I don't actually remember, but you can't just chase two squirrels. I don't know.
Yeah,
you got to focus on just one. So, yeah.
Yeah. But hey man, we are almost at the time. I mean, we are a little bit over, but I think that's fine. And I just want to thank all three of you. I think it was really great talking to you. Plus, it's the hackathon is really great. I think we will see some of the really good projects or some of the really good tooling that comes out of this hackathon. I hope we do see, because that will just grow the Hyperliquid ecosystem in general, and eventually that will help to get more users into the ecosystem. So yeah, looking forward to what people have to build during the hackathon.
Yo, Sahil, you are the best, man. Thank you so much for hosting us here and giving us some visibility to your audience. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
I can say the same. Thank you so much to you guys for joining.
Christian, Toaster, do you guys have any final words here? Or?
Couldn't have said it better. Just thanks for the visibility. I think this is mutual beneficial. We're just here to spread the good word and get builders in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing else to add. Went through everything. Thanks again. Thanks everybody who is watching. Hopefully some new people decide to participate because they saw this. And yeah, looking forward to see what everybody builds.
Yeah, thanks so much for sticking with us, guys.
Yep. Thank you so much for everyone who's watching. And if you're hacking, all the best. Happy building. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.